What's up, everybody? Long time no see. Rahim Esbly here with episode 395 of 43 Sportstalk. Monday, July 18th. One more week until YouTube only. That's July 25th through the 31st. Today, amongst the news and scores, and MLB All-Star Weekend continues tonight with the Home Run Derby. And a college football treat. 2023 NFL Draft breakout candidates at the wide receiver position is going to be on episode 398. I've been talking about that for the last couple of weeks, and now I finally have it all ready to go. Much to look forward to. So, okay, let's go. Let's continue with the NFL hashtag rocked. Today we're talking explosive runners. The explosive plays are what makes the NFL. It's what makes our sport so fun to watch, honestly, among other things. The next-gen stats formula I've been using for this project uses metrics that track these plays, such as distances and speed measurements, among others. I made a list of the top runners in 2021 and used their stats with this formula to make a non-arguable list. Here's the criteria I used as the final determination, though, for who made that. That's this such list. In order to qualify for the list, runners must have a minimum of 100 carries in 2021 and at least 20 or more carries of 10 plus yards. Anything less, sit down. From there, we examined a total number of and percentage of 15 plus mile per hour runs. Which I still can't grasp the way that they track stuff like that. Anyway, yeah, I'm looking at the runners who made significant gains most often. These requirements provide clarity in such tasks. To review, here are the three criteria: a minimum of 100 carries in 2021, at least 20 carries of 10 plus yards, and the defining metrics are the total number and percentage of 15 mile per hour runs. So you might notice that one absent player here after headlining the list last year. Arizona Cardinals Kyler Murray didn't make the cut because he only finished with 8 rushes of 10 plus yards, but he most definitely would have been on two of my list for sure. Anyway, number 10, Alvin Kamara for the New Orleans Saints. He had 21 runs of 10 yards or more with a percentage of 8.8. 15 mile per hour runs, 38 of those, and the percentage for that is 15.8. I'm sorry. With the Saints attempting to fight through the loss of their starting quarterback Drew Brees and top wide receiver in 2021, Kamara was their lifeline, and to me, he did good. He set career highs in touches with 287. Unfortunately, though, for the Saints, it seemed like defenses were just like kind of aware of that's what was going to happen. Okay, there's no Drew Brees to fear, you know what I mean? So, and Michael Thomas is out. They already know that, and there's really no other viable option on that Saints offense in 2021. He finished with 133 rushing yards over his expected total in 2021. The lowest mark in the NFL, including 106 rushing yards versus stacked box. That's 8 or more defenders. Interestingly, though, to me, as often as it seems he was their best weapon, his targets dropped significantly from 107 to just like 67. However, his target rate was 28.3%. So when he was in there, he was the workhorse. They were giving the ball to him. Whoever their excuse was at quarterback was just basically throwing him the ball. Second highest among running backs, minimum 200 routes run, further emphasizing how much the Saints knew he was their best and only weapon. As for explosiveness, Kamara still posted a 15 plus mile per hour rate north of 15%, ripped off 21 runs of 10 plus yards. And even with an entire defense like the often keying on him, as I keep saying, he finished with the 6th most yards after the catch among running backs at 445 and gained 634 of his 898 rushing yards outside of the tackle box, which his game. That speed to the outside, he's gone, touchdown. Also, he finished with 759 rushing yards after contact, which is interesting enough. He took kind of a couple blows, missed 4 games, I believe. Yeah, it's 4 games this year. And it's nearly 85% of his entire rushing total. So we move on to number 9. Kamara's one of my favorite backs. First of all, before we move on to number 9, I think of all-purpose guys who can do it, who could do it all: block, catch, run. And if you're not thinking Alvin Kamara right now, like you just don't know football. Anyway, Antonio Gibson, halfback for the Washington Commanders, 24 of his 10-plus yards, or the runs, he ran for 10 or more yards 24 times. The percentage was 9.3. 15 or more mile per hour runs was 38. The percentage on that was 14.7. Here we go. Here's my take on this. Commanders coach Ron Rivera he kind of made it not like that's knowing that's what they're doing. He flirted with the idea of about a halfback with benefits kind of backfield, you know what I mean? So it's basically, I guess my interpretation of that is whoever's hot, keep giving him the rock until he cools down. I don't know. Anyway, Gibson in 2021 received the vast majority of the carries all throughout the halfback stable, finishing with 258 for 1,037 yards. That's roughly 4 yards a carry and 7 touchdowns. He served as the bell cow for Washington, helping keep the offense on schedule as much as a losing team with going into the last season with the expectations as high as they were. At least I did with that defensive line. And then Chase Young ended up getting hurt. It was kind of messed up. Anyway, he posted a 44.6% success rate on runs, percentages of carries resulting in positive expected points added, second only to Jonathan Taylor among running backs on this list. He operated largely out of the shotgun, which is advantageous to some, gaining the 6 most rushing yards against light boxes, which is 6 or less defenders. That's pretty much everyone coming back and playing coverage because they know what you're going to do. Among running backs also, Gibson figured into Washington's passing game prominently, actually, with the second most targets, 16 on-screen passes among running backs, catching 15 of them. Second most, gaining third most yards at 121. Washington's offensive struggles certainly didn't help Gibson's overall production, but the explosiveness was still visible in his 38 15-plus mile-an-hour runs and the 24 10-plus yard runs as well. Perhaps he'll benefit from the Commanders having more options in 2022. One thing I liked also that they did was extend Scary Terry McLaurin. That offensive line is what it is, and if there's a team that's going to kind of challenge Dallas for that NFC spot, I would like to see them do it as well. I would like to see the Redskins. I would like to see the Washington Commanders do it. Sorry. Number 8, Elijah Mitchell, halfback from the San Francisco 49ers, 29 runs of 10 yards or more. The percentage for that is 14. 15 mile per hour runs, 39 in a percentage of 18.8. Mitchell became the apple of the 49ers' faithful eye in 2021, proving he was capable of ripping off big plays while powering San Francisco's rushing attack with 963 yards in just 11 games. 10 starts, too, by the way. So he's a fantasy beast. So if you ever have a chance to draft Elijah Mitchell, he's probably going to be the third running back off anyone. I mean, unless you're in a thing of like bots, there's just no way. Yeah, so and it didn't really matter when defenses loaded up the box to try to stop him. They knew it was coming. He averaged still 4.8 yards a carry against such defenses. Third highest rate behind only Nick Chubb and Green Bay Packers' A.J. Dillon. Minimum of such has to be 25 carries. He also gained 122 rushing yards, more than expected. The best among rookie running backs and sixth among backs overall. Mitchell proved to be a threat on the perimeter, gaining 170 rushing yards from the line of scrimmage, outside tackles. That was third amongst backs. He packed a punch too, gaining 4.1 yards per carry after contact, good for fifth in the league. And his career is just getting started. Number 7, he's the first quarterback on this list, Lamar Jackson of the Baltimore Ravens. 24 runs of 10 yards or more, 18% on that. 15-mile-an-hour runs, 49, and that number was low. It's lower than what I thought it was going to be. And the percentage of that is 36.8%. So when Lamar Jackson was not stopped, he was basically beaten for a touchdown. At least at 36% of the time. So let's wrap your head around that number really quickly. Anyway, what do I have to say about him? This is what we've come to expect, honestly, from Jackson, the 2019 NFL MVP and most important player, probably the Ravens have had in a while. Main reason he landed seventh here, though, is because Baltimore tried to establish better offensive balance in 2021. They tried to force him to be a quarterback, basically, what I've heard some people say. Limiting his rushing production a little bit, and you know what happens if you've played Madden, like when you have Lamar Jackson, or when you go up against him. He can hurt you. I still finished with 269 rushing yards over expected, tying for third most league-wide in ranking, second among quarterbacks behind only Josh Allen. Please don't slay me. Yes, Josh Allen is higher than Lamar Jackson on this list. I'm sorry, and I will explain. The difference in his production compared with past years speaks to that of the offensive adjustment and the injury that sidelined him for the final month of the season. Jackson went a best ever 631 rushing yards over the edge in 2019 and 431 in 2020 and 269 last year. Meanwhile, Baltimore went from having the 32nd ranked passing offense in 2020 to the 13th. In 2021, so you kind of see what's going on here. I think the trade of Brown was a little smoke and mirrors. That number speaks more to me than about what they're going to do this upcoming season than a wide receiver getting traded. Jackson still finished with 49 15-plus mile-an-hour runs and 24 10-plus yard runs, tied for the most first downs gained and over expected with 17. He wasn't quite as jaw-droppingly effective as you've probably seen him in years, but it's interesting here because this is a contract year for him too. So what can he do to get that extension? Well, how much, first of all, is he going to get? Because it seems like the base for quarterbacks now is about $230 million. A lot of interesting stuff here with Lamar Jackson and this potential contract. Positive minds want him to get paid. But I can't tell you that I haven't, on multiple occasions, thought seeing him elsewhere. Honestly, I can see him going with a different franchise. Anyway, moving on. Number 6, Joe Mixon from the Cincinnati Bengals. He went for 26 yard runs, 10 or more yard runs of 10 or more, with a percentage of 8.9, 15-mile-an-hour runs, 51, and that percentage is 17.5. So here we go. My assessment on Mr. Mixon. On one hand, Mixon is indeed an explosive rusher. His 51 15-plus mile-an-hour runs and 26 10-plus yard rushes, kind of like Ruben. At the same time, he's a runner who didn't gain much more than expected in 2021. There are a couple guys on the Bengals team who the offense specifically did really good. When I took a look at their numbers, I was kind of blown away. I didn't know T. Higgins had the year he did last year, and here we go, is another Bengal, Joe Mixon. He finished with the second most rushing yards after contact last season with 1,054. He gained only one rushing yard over expected for the entire season, which probably let a lot of fantasy owners down. He also tied for the fifth fewest average yards gained before contact in 2021. The 15-plus mile-an-hour runs, kind of like a bit of an outlier, I guess. I don't know. Well, however you want to look at it. Mixon rushed for 901 yards outside the tackles, third most in the league. He's essentially a runner that wins by getting to and around the perimeter before he takes off. So kind of he doesn't have to go full speed right out the gate. It's a slow build, but it can be devastating and blinding, judging by his 3 carries that reached a top speed of 20-plus mile an hour, tied for third most in the NFL. So if he gets that block, he's gone too. And you like that about running backs who aren't just speed demons, and who can kind of balance it well. I have a lot of admiration for that. Anyway, number 5, Josh Allen, quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. Please don't. 28 was the number of 10-yard or more runs that he completed, 23% with that. 15 mile-an-hour runs, 51, and the percentage was 41.8%. So Josh Allen was a guy that you were not doing nothing to on the ground, pretty much. And as I've said many freaking times last season, this dude is a buzzsaw. You can't. He'll kill you with his hand. He'll kill you with the arm. Kill you with the legs. And has no problem sacrificing his body. So this guy is fucking dangerous. The Bills are a couple pieces away, and honestly, I might go out on a limb here by saying this, but I think the Bills will be Super Bowl champions within the next half decade. I'll say that. I think the Bills win the Super Bowl within the next 5 years. I think they're heading in the right direction, and this guy is what starts all their bullshit. Allen is going to headline. When I talk about the quarterbacks in this series, landing atop the best deep passers the league has right now. However, to truly understand why Allen makes the Bills so dangerous, we have to look way beyond his arm. Josh Allen finished second in rushing yards gained over expected with 310, trailing only Jonathan Taylor, and he ranked among the top 5 on the design quarterback runs in a number of categories. Carries, third. Yards, third. Touchdowns, tied for 4th. And rush yards over expected, 4th. So this was another guy who really made the fantasy owners happy. Outside of Jonathan Taylor's season, this was probably something that wasn't really expected, what he did on the ground. Allen posted the second best pressure evasion rate in the NFL at 24.3, while also carrying the ball on scrambles 50 times, third most for a league high 494 yards and 210 rushing yards outside of the tackles. His 54.9 rushing expected points added were the most among quarterbacks, proving he's not just dangerous with his arm. The legs are scary too. Something I think that needs to be accounted for if you are going through your fantasy picks week in and week out, and you go up against the Bills, or you have offensive players that get to see the Bills twice a year. It's just another thing to think about when it comes to drafting. So just remember, he's dangerous. Number 4, Nick Chubb for the Cleveland Browns, 41 rushes of 10 yards or more at 18% with that. 46 rushes of 15 miles an hour or more, 20.2% with that. And he struggled a little bit as the Browns were like kind of inconsistent offensively. Obviously blame to Baker Mayfield, but that's a combo for another episode, right? Cleveland's wide zone scheme appears to be a perfect fit for Nick Chubb. He's led the NFL in 10-plus yard runs outside the tackles in 2021 at 39. Gaining the most rushing yards over expected on such attempts, 324. And that's where, basically, this is where he gets his money. This is where he does it. Loading the box with defenders against him doesn't really work too often either because of the elusiveness and the physicality. Two things that I think are at such a high level that there's really nobody you can compare it to in the NFL right now. You think somebody who's that physical, who loves the hits, is not really kind of like at first he's not juking you, but you're bouncing off him, whatever. And then he also when you get juked, he's changed the change of direction. He doesn't lose a step, and I think that's something that no back in the NFL rivals when it comes to Nick Chubb. He claimed a league-leading plus 109 rushing yards versus stacked boxes, 8 or more defenders again last season, and that was while sharing a backfield with an injured Baker Mayfield, who didn't strike much fear in the hearts of defenses anywhere at all. Same style of running helped Chubb post the highest 10-plus yard rush rate in the NFL among non-quarterbacks at 18, and the second highest yards gained after contact per rush at 4.5. Nick continues to be deceptively fast as well, finishing second in rushes of 20-plus mile an hour among running backs with 5. Number 3, and again, I'm trying to be nice here because I'm a Packers fan. But we have Dalvin Cook at number 3 on the list. 10 yards or more. He did 36 of those. 14.5%. He was second in the NFL and the most amongst running backs with 54 runs that were clocked at 15 miles an hour or more, with a percentage of 21.7. Dalvin Cook was also good last year because he was hurt and his numbers were still freaking bananas. When Cook receives the handoff, he's proceeding forward with a full head of steam regardless. He gained 1.6 yards before contact per carry in 2021, tied for 4th among running backs, and it paid off nicely for Minnesota. He ranked first with 12 15-plus mile an hour rushes inside the tackles and tied for second with 14 10-plus yard rushes inside the tackles as well. So inside outside he was kind of the same. He was really bashing you either way, and it didn't matter if the box was stacked, apparently by those numbers. Cook's 36 10-plus yard runs were nothing to scoff at, and neither is a 15-plus mile per hour percentage above 21, which means he gets to the last gear pretty fucking quick. The only issue holding Cook back on this list is he's ranked 12th in rushing yards over expected with just 81, far behind the likes even of Seattle's Rashard Penny. Rashard Penny was a former first round pick who kind of like, it was like, yo, what the fuck? And then by like year 4, he just turned it on, and here he is, one of the star running backs in the NFL. He didn't qualify for this list, however, though, because he posted fewer than 20 10-plus yard runs. Dalvin's initial impact is easy to see, as its gross production is just little extra rushing yards over expected that's missing here. Number 2, Jonathan Taylor, halfback for the Indianapolis Colts. He did 50 runs of 10 yards or more at a percentage of 15.1, 15 mile an hour runs, 48. Wow. And the percentage was 14.5 on that one. I respect what Derrick Henry did last year, but I get flack because people want to try to tell me that this was the best running back season. Derrick Henry was hurt half the year, came back and he was hurt and had what, 900 something yards. Anyway, we'll talk about that at some point. But I have plenty of arguments why Derrick Henry was the better running back last year. Sifting through the NGS data made it even more clear that Taylor was the best running back in football. He led all running backs in rushing yards over expected with 481. Rushes of 20 plus miles an hour at 6. Rushing yards after contact 1,418. So what was it? It was like 1,800 rushing yards, like 1,818 or 1,836, something of that. Anyway, but like that's how much he had total last year. That's fucking ridiculous. First downs gained via rushing, 107. First downs gained over expectation via rushing, 16 more than he did last year. In yards per rush against light boxes, 6.8 yards a carry, damn near first down per play, which is a single season record in the next gen stats era. Since 2016, minimum of 100 and such carries, filtering in that category. The only reason Taylor isn't atop the list is because we're talking about the most explosive players. His total of 15 plus mile an hour run pales in comparison to that the player ranked number 1 on this list. Listen, unless you know your shit, don't fucking argue with me about these lists. Regardless, Taylor is spectacular though, posting 50 10 plus yard runs. He's truly astounding to say the least. As was the rest of Taylor's 2021 campaign. If it serves as a predictor of things to come, we should get used to seeing Taylor's name at or near the top of this list every year. Number 1, Jalen Hurts, quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles, 29 runs and 10 yards or more with a percentage of 20.9, 15 mile an hour runs, 78. That was most in the NFL, with a percentage of 56.1%, which means that 40-yard dash of 4.37 was real. And Philly's added a lot on the defensive side of the ball. Offensive line, they kind of tweaked a little bit. They got Jason Kelsey some help inside. And I think that's going to do well. That's going to bode well for Jalen Hurts. Anyway, here we go. Philly found itself in a little bit of a rut in 2021 before reimagining itself, rebranding themselves as a run-first, dual threat quarterback, halfback attack, and enter Jalen Hurts. Leading the way here from the Eagles, he really took flight about like week 5, I'd say. He used his abilities to keep defenses guessing. The shift in philosophy also produced the league's top rushing offense. Now, my only thing with the way they ran the ball last year is why Miles Sanders didn't get it. Especially when he came off his injury. Why Miles Sanders was not really included in the offense was something I was extremely upset about. I drafted him pretty freaking high, and oh man, that freaking Eagles coach, like cost me everything last year. Anyway, Hurts led the league in design quarterback runs with 72, rushing yards gained on such runs 377, and yards per carry on such runs 5.2, with a minimum of 30 of them. In addition, his 146 rushing yards gained over expected, 8 touchdowns scored, and 11 first downs gained over expected on such runs led the league, so that his 20 and up rushing expected points as well on design quarterback runs. Philly's offensive identity has set an expectation for which every defense must prepare. It's not about containing Hurts, because he'll get you with his arm too. They have to plan to stop his running, and then stop his running backs. And it's not just Hurts. His teammate Miles Sanders, I'm freaking hoping, gets the ball. He nearly made the list as well. He made up for lost time. I was just concerned that he needs to be in there anyway. So that is the list of the explosive runners, NFL NFL, #rock. Let me know how I did. And if you would like a copy of some of those stats and formula in which I use to make this list, let me know. Feel free, and I will send you a link. Let's talk WNBA with some scores real quick. Las Vegas 91, Connecticut 73, Washington 70, Minnesota 57, Atlanta 85, Phoenix 75, and Seattle 81, Indy 65. That is it for episode 395 of 403 Sports Talk. Raheem Escalade here. Thank you so much for suffering through me with that long ass episode. Love you all. Wishing up and health, wealth, and success. And you will see episode 396 tomorrow. You have a good day.